Hey there, this is Teresa, and I've got my work clothes on, so let's talk abundance. Now, the reason I've got my really dirty, grungy work clothes on right now is because we've got a pretty important project going on in our front yard, one that we need to get done before winter sets in about a day or two. You see, we have this wonderful thing in our house. It's such a great image or symbol of abundance. We have an ever-flowing artesian spring. This artesian spring is always flowing up through the pipe in the ground into our house. When we need water for our shower or kitchen sink or whatever, there's a pump that distributes it where it needs to be. But when the pump's not running, that artesian spring water is always flowing, bubbling, sounding, and then it goes up and it goes right back down into a drain, into the ground, that then drains through a drain pipe in our front yard, and eventually the water goes into the ground and down into the creek on the edge of our property. The other day, in kind of some routine checks before winter here at the farmhouse, we discovered that the water wasn't flowing as powerfully through the drain pipe as it usually does. And this has happened before, so we immediately knew there were probably some tree roots blocking the pipe. So you know what you need to do when you have tree roots blocking a pipe that's only about a foot or foot and a half below ground in Wisconsin heading into winter? You got to dig down. You got to find the pipe. You have to open up the pipe. You got to find the tree roots. You have to cut them out. And then you have to close the pipe and fill in the dirt again. So you can see I've been pretty busy doing my best imitation of a gopher or badger digging my holes. Because like I said, it's happened before. So the first thing I did was I went to the places that we've dug before to see if tree roots had grown back in those places. And a couple of them had. I mean, we are talking tree roots that will almost completely block the flow of water in the pipe. And so I pulled those out, I cut those out, and I thought, great, now the water's going to get flowing again. And there were still spots where it just was hardly moving. And going into winter, if we don't get that moving, there's a good chance these pipes are going to freeze, our drain is going to back up, and that is not something I want to have happen. So I had to dig more holes. And more holes. And I've dug a lot of holes and I've found lots of tree roots, and I've got one more patch where I can tell there's some tree roots blocking the way, and I'm going to be digging that in just a few minutes, cutting open the pipe, pulling those tree roots out, and I firmly expect that once those last ones are gone, the water's going to start moving fully, and we will be ready for winter. Just fill it back in. Now, this morning I realized this is such a great metaphor or example of what our own process of accessing abundance needs to be like. Because the abundance that we want in our lives is kind of like that artesian spring water. It's always flowing. It's meant to flow through us and through our lives fully and freely and powerfully. The question is it? Or are there blocks in us that slow it down? Have it stagnate, have it not move freely. And if there are, the question is, how do we respond to those blocks? You know, as soon as I realized going into winter with the temperatures dropping starting tomorrow, that we had a block in the pipe, this became a high priority. Every moment I had between work and phone calls, etc., I was out here digging. When Dan was home, he would be helping me, digging and digging to find the pipe, open it up, pull out the tree roots, run the snake through it, do what we had to do to keep it open. It's kind of hard, dirty, muddy work, and it's really important. There's lots of things I would just as soon be doing, but I can't think of any that are more important. And that's the same thing with you. And whatever blocks you have within you, whether those are beliefs or patterns or habits that limit the flow of abundance in your life. It's so easy to say, oh, I don't have time to deal with that right now, or that's just not going to be any fun, or that's too hard, or I don't want to get dirty, or it might hurt. And so You keep trying to access abundance and experience abundance in your life, but the flow is blocked. You can keep on ignoring it or denying it or just pretend everything's okay. At least I've got a little bit of water. At least I've got a little bit of abundance flowing through. But that creates disaster in our lives, just like it would here in our front yard and in our farmhouse if I had ignored the fact that we had some blocks in our drainage pipe. So when you run into a block, a belief, you find yourself struggling unnecessarily, when flow isn't happening, when it seems like the only way you can get things done is by push, 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 and pressure, 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 that's a clue. You've probably got some blocks going on. Take a moment, take 2 moments, dig in, literally. Pay attention to what you're thinking in that moment. Pay attention to the expectations you have of, oh yeah, well, it's got to be hard. Well, is that an accurate belief? Not necessarily. Does it support you to access abundance? No. Instead of denying it, take some time, make it a high priority to jump in and explore yourself. What beliefs do you have? Where's this pattern coming from? What's the thought you have about money or yourself or your worth or time or energy? How are you focusing on not enough or what could go wrong or how you have to be happy with what you've got? What are the thoughts or beliefs that are slowing or blocking the flow of abundance in your life? Take the time to dig into them. If you need some support, that's what coaches are for. That's the work that I do. There are many coaches out there that can help you discover and unblock, like pull the roots of those beliefs out. And yeah, is it dirty work sometimes? Just like in this front yard? Yeah. Is it hard work sometimes? Yes. Is it important work? Absolutely yes. Is it worthwhile work? Absolutely yes. And it's not work that you just do once and then it's done. It's an ongoing process. Remember, I said we've had tree roots in this pipe before. A couple years ago, in a couple of spots, we found them and we had to do the same thing. This year, it seems to be a little worse. But I'm digging them out. I'm finding them. I'm opening up that pipe, digging in, getting dirty, and I'm clearing it so it can flow. That's the process of accessing abundance. Because the abundance is always there. It's always flowing. Our job is to recognize when we've got something that's blocking or limiting it, and then dig in and pull that belief out. Pull that pattern out. Pull that habit out. Open ourselves to the abundance that we were born to experience. This is Teresa, and I'm getting dirty digging in here in our front yard, talking abundance with you. But remember, it's not just about talking abundance. It's about living abundance. So start living abundance in your life and enjoy the flow.